This morning, I convened the session and announced that we had really come to the end of our rope as Democrats with the Republicans in the Senate. We're about 19 days late now on the budget, and we came in yesterday with the idea that we were going to just work consistently until we could come up with a budget that resolved the differences. This morning it became apparent that once again the Republicans had changed the location of the goal, and as someone said, David Beckham would have a hard time kicking it into the goal because it keeps moving. Today the Republicans said that they wanted to go down to a zero deficit, and that's changed now 3 times. So, and when we ask them, where would you make your cuts, there's been vague answers, and I don't even think you've had much success in pinning them down. So we thought the most appropriate thing to do would be to have them face the challenge that we have, and that is to come up with a budget that satisfies them, which I guess would mean a zero deficit, and would get them 15 votes, the same way that when we put up a budget, we put up all of our votes. And then they'd have to get 12 Democratic votes. Because until they are ready and willing and able to specifically say, we want cuts here, we want changes there, and write trailer bills that satisfy the budget and the budget requirements, I don't see how we're going to make any progress. I do not understand what they're after. The budget, the governor last night was working very hard to try to resolve this thing. He was perplexed. I'm perplexed. So I've just put the burden back on them. And they did say that, they could do this. Mr. Runner stood up and said that this should be no surprise to anyone. They cast votes on the Budget Committee consistently that showed where they were. Well, it's not usually the way we do business, but they can go back and reconstruct that now. And when they're ready, I gave them until Wednesday for the first cut. And at that point, we'll see where they are and how much progress they've made and what the prospects they feel are for making, more and more progress. They keep saying we're almost there. The fact of the matter is we don't know where we are. I have no idea. On a day-to-day basis, I don't know where we are. So, we have a budget. The Assembly passed a budget, and we have it. And normally, we take that budget up, and we adopt it. That's not been possible. So we are changing now the way we do things to see if perhaps they can be a little bit more forthright and forthcoming about solving it. This is, in fact, a Republican Senate problem. It's not anybody else's problem. 3 parties have agreed. The 4th has not. The governor has said this is a good budget. It's a budget that everyone should be able to support. So the burden is now on them. If this budget is held up further, it is because they're holding it up. And I hope they can explain why, because it's not very clear right now. And so when you ask me, or anybody else asks me, well, why is this being held up? You're asking the wrong guy, because I don't know. And it's no more complicated than that. I sent everybody home, and I guess maybe they get a little chance to sit down, and we're making ourselves, we're not trying to be untoward here. They've got all the data that we've had. It's all public data. If they get to a point where they feel that they want to sit down and negotiate with us, we're going to be available to negotiate. But right now, they need to create a document, as we have created a document that represents our priorities. And remind you again, we have made a lot of concessions here. We've done all that we can as Democrats to protect the most vulnerable populations, to protect education, to protect higher education, with what funds there are available in the budget. There are no new taxes. There are no new programs. Any growth here has been caseload driven. More kids, you have to have more teachers. More people on SSI, you have to have more social workers. You put more people in jail, you have to have more prison guards. That's why this budget is growing, and for no other reason. So we've got a $3.4 billion reserve, and Mr. McClintock can, make all the sophist remarks that he wants. The fact of the matter is, it's 3.4. It is the biggest. It's a rainy day fund. We accept the contingencies in the future are vague and could be disastrous, so we have a nice cushion for there. We have cut down to $700 million on a deficit. We are almost twice as high as the governor on reserves, and half again his size on the deficit. So this is not a budget, I've said before, that would make my highlight reel, but it is a good bipartisan budget. It's a responsible budget, and we believe that rather than allowing schools and community colleges to start and no money for them, we should hurry up and finish this off. So that's where we are today.